Now, if you have a mobility problem, that makes it hard to use public transport. Taking a taxi might be one of the only ways you can get around, and that's easy enough in the Central Belt, where legions of black cabs can carry a wheelchair without difficulty. Most recent figures from Transport Scotland show that Glasgow has around 1,400 taxis that are wheelchair friendly, while Edinburgh has about 1,300 of them.
Yeah, but in the whole of the Highlands Council area, there are just 30, and that's dropped again this year. The Nine's Isla Todd has the story.
Thanks, pal. So hopping in and out of a taxi doesn't really take much thought for the most of us, but anyone using a wheelchair, vehicles like these just won't cut it. You need a specialised car and it needs to be available for hire.
Catherine has found there's a shortage of them. Getting out and about is important to her, but she has multiple sclerosis and has been left stranded multiple times in Inverness.
Well, I was shocked, I was angry and I was quite frightened. I booked 10 days in advance a restaurant and I booked the taxi. The taxi ultimately didn't turn up. When we phoned them, they said, "Oh, you're not in our books." Never got the booking.
And what happened? How did you get home?
Oh, yes, that's right. My friend wheeled me home. Literally wheeled me in my wheelchair home. Luckily, it wasn't very far. Had he not been there, I would have been completely stuck in the middle of Inverness in a wheelchair.
So this is the route that Catherine has to take to get home. This hill is difficult in a wheelchair going up and almost treacherous heading down. And she's not the only one facing an uphill battle when it comes to journeys around Inverness. There are only 9 wheelchair-accessible taxis that operate in the city, and usually they're booked out on contract work. So catching one is the luck of the draw.
Local councillor Andrew is pushing for change, but hasn't had much success so far.
It's like trudging through custard trying to get it, and there is a very sort of clear solution because many other areas have brought it in. Say Dundee, for example, they have brought in a policy that said no, from this point onwards no more taxis that aren't accessible will be allowed to be licensed. So those kind of things can exist.
Highland Council says it has no direct power to insist private hire car operators provide a minimum number of accessible taxis, and some operators say financial incentives are needed to make a difference. But a local charity has put the wheels in motion and bought a second-hand taxi which has been booked up since launching last month.
We always knew there was an unmet demand, but I think we were surprised, indeed shocked by the level of interest. Word got around very quickly. I mean, we're still in the pilot stage of this project. We're still training our volunteer drivers to use the new car, but the phones have been going pretty crazy with people saying this is going to make such a difference to our lives.
There is a drive for change here, but for now there's no clear route to get people like Catherine back on the road. Isla Todd, BBC News, Inverness.